Dear friends, welcome. My name is Viktor Pinchuk. Today we have our 7th traditional philanthropic roundtable. But because I am from Ukraine, I am Ukrainian businessman, and you know, even in this moment we have in my country huge instability. We never had in our newest history even one drop of blood on the streets, but today we already have 4 or 5 people who were killed. I never been so worried about my country, about the future of my country. I don't want to bring politics in here, but I want to ask you maybe to share, because here we have maybe hundreds of people from more than 50 countries, from 5 continents. Maybe I want to ask you to share silence for 60 seconds in which we send our thoughts to Ukrainian people. And we pray to peace, reason, compromise, and reconciliation prevail. Thank you very much. Now, to the program.
We can do what we want, we can live as we choose. There's no guarantee, we've got nothing to lose. Don't look at me, I can't deny the truth. It's plain to see, don't look at me. All my life I never knew what I could be, what I could do, and we knew. We can do what we want, we can live as we choose. There's no guarantee, we've got nothing to lose. Don't look at me, it's way too soon to see what's gonna be. Don't look at me.
We want to think about the new, how we can create a new economic system with a more just distribution of wealth. For philanthropists who want real change, it's necessary to look further than just philanthropy. We must look at how wealth is created and distributed. How can we get beyond traditional capitalism? What comes after capitalism? In Soviet Union schools, I was told that after capitalism comes imperialism, then socialism, and then, as a highest level of justice, communism. But it's obviously wrong, and today I can tell you what will be after traditional capitalism from my point of view. It will be, I can tell, Bragayunism. I will explain what does it mean. We have 3 pioneers of a new way to unite economy and social: Rічард Бренсон, Bill Gates, and Mухаммад Юнус, Nobel Prize winner for peace. And nobody can speak better about new way how we can unite business and social responsibility. And Toní Blер, who is one of the, I think, most effective politicians of our days, and also one of the leaders in philanthropy, will be moderator of this conversation. Thank you very much. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much indeed, Victor, and welcome everyone. And just to say to Victor, this is the seventh such roundtable. They're always absolutely stellar events. And I'd just like to say a word of thanks and appreciation to Victor for all the work he does. And as you know, he's a figure that is global, but he's, as you've just heard, also a patriot of Ukraine. And Victor, on behalf of all of us, we express our sympathy to the people of Ukraine at this moment. Our thoughts are with them, and let us indeed hope there's a way forward of peace and reconciliation. So you have got a great topic, which is really how capitalism develops and is changed also by its interaction with philanthropy. And we couldn't have three better people to put these questions to. So without further ado, I'm going to launch straight into it. And Bill, if I may start with you. Business and philanthropy, I mean, you've been the great prophet in a way of how those two things should interact together. How do you see the state of play between how business is interacting with philanthropy and the successes and failures of the balance sheet so far?
I think it's valuable to step back and say, what's our goal with philanthropy? It's not, philanthropy in and of itself. It's really to uplift people. It's to, reduce childhood death, to improve health, to let people be educated. And so when we evaluate the system we have, which is a mix of capitalism, government, and philanthropy is a small but catalytic piece of that, I'd say we are making some pretty amazing progress. 200 years ago, a third of children died before the age of 5. Average lifespan was 40 years. Literacy was less than 10%. By 1960, 20% of the world had broken out of that, but 80% wasn't much different. 25% under 5 mortality, about 20% literacy in that 80% of the world. Today, it's a far better picture. 5% of children die before the age of 5. Worldwide lifespans now up to 50 years, still not adequate. And it is this amazing mix of business, government, and philanthropy that's taken us this far. And our ability to focus on what's undone is valuable. The tragedy of Ukraine right now, or Syria, or South Sudan, these are awful situations. But in fact, if we only focus on that, we won't look at what's gone well. Why has health, literacy, lifespans, why have they improved so much? And how can we double down on what works and say make twice the progress so that, perhaps 20 years from now, we'd have no more low-income countries. I think that's within reach, to have less than 10. And the 10 would be ones where, say, North Korea, Democratic Republic of Congo, you could see that the factors made it tough. But the rest, middle income, when I say middle income, there's a World Bank definition, but I also mean countries that are self-sufficient. And so what in the way of aid, philanthropy, and business participation can accelerate that, get us to almost no poor countries, and I'd say a very ambitious goal would be 1.6% under 5 mortality, which would get you to where the U.S. was in 1980 for all but very, very few countries. What we've seen in the last decade is businesses stepping up to take their skill sets, and those vary from pharmaceutical companies, mobile companies, banks, and get more involved in the poor countries, bring their talent in. The thing that business has that directly focus on your question is a willingness to measure, and when things don't work, to make rapid change, to not get stuck in a way of doing things.
You're maybe contrasting that with government.
Absolutely. Government has a broad commitment to build systems that will always be there and to create, to tax, to build infrastructure, to have stability, justice. And when it comes to things like health and education, there's no substitute. The smallest piece, this philanthropic piece, though, we want it to grow. And I actually work in philanthropy with everybody on the panel, and Victor, we all have things. We're collaborating on Giving Pledge, is something that Richard and Victor are involved in, going to a lot of these poor countries and helping them build up infrastructure. Tony's done some amazing work there. So I think the mentality of business, use science, bring innovators in and express your problem to them. Give them a fair bit of capital and know that some of those will fail. Bring measurement. And sometimes it's the most basic things of personnel systems. How when you run a healthcare system or education system, do you train people, get them to show up and measure it so that if that's falling apart, say the health system in Nigeria, that goes better. So those basic disciplines, philanthropy is adopting them more today than ever.
Sure. I mean, I remember being on a panel once with you, and someone said, "Did you make a mistake over such and such?" And you said it wasn't a mistake; it was a learning opportunity. Having made several, having had several learning opportunities myself, is there anything is there anything that you have has altered your thinking as a result of your experience in the interaction between business and philanthropy? In other words, have you gone through a situation and said, no, actually, that was the wrong move for the way we did that?
Well, I definitely underestimated how these basic personnel system issues, how important they are. If you look at the record of giving money to governments and say improve their education system, it's not a very pretty picture. That is, the measurable results in those education systems rarely move. Right. And it's because they training the teachers, getting them to show up, making sure they're excellent. If you don't deal with that, it doesn't work. Same thing with primary health care. Why does northern Nigeria have a vaccination rate lower than, say, Somalia that essentially has no government? Why is it less than 30%? The basic personnel system is broken down. And so although I love breakthrough vaccines like malaria vaccine, TB vaccine, I would give as much to have the personnel system for primary health care in northern India and northern Nigeria. If we could get that working well, that would save more lives than any vaccine. So it's kind of mundane, prosaic stuff. Even when I was at Microsoft, I sort of delegated this idea of, make the salespeople show up and sell. And, I was just off with the crazy engineers doing what I thought was the magic ingredient. But the fact that basic piece is often missing in the poor countries, and that can block even magic tools getting out and doing the thing. That I was very naive about that, and we've had to hire people, double down, really think that through.
Okay. Richard, obviously you're a huge, iconic figure in business terms, but you've also been amazingly active in philanthropy. Tell me a little bit about the Team B concept, the idea that it's business is more than just about profit. And maybe also, this is something that fascinates me in the work that I do. What are the skills that you most effectively take from the world of business and apply to philanthropy?
Well, the B team was set up quite recently. Mухаммад Юнус, myself, Paul Pullman, Ariana Huffington, and a number of business leaders got together with the aim of, first of all, making sure we got our own houses in order, and we've signed a sort of 18-part pledge to make sure that we get our own houses in order, and then to try to use the B team to get out and speak on issues that we feel strongly about. Yesterday we put out quite a strong statement about human rights and asking companies and governments to respect the rights of individuals to be able to love each other, even if they are the same sex, and not to lock them up and put them in prison. Speaking out on women's rights and other rights. And I think in the past, business has not spoken out on these kinds of issues. They felt, that's up for politicians to deal with, or that's up to the social sector to deal with. And I think that's a mistake. I think all of us around the table feel that business leaders should play a much bigger part in trying to trying to deal with issues that we feel are wrong.
Why do you think that's changed? Is it because it's good business or good philanthropy, or both?
I think it's the right thing to do. We're citizens of the world. I mean, to answer your other half of the question, drugs. Okay, we could say that the war on drugs is something for governments to deal with, and governments have dealt with the war on drugs for the last 60 years, and every year the war has got worse and worse and worse, and it's created havoc in South America. So as a businessman, what I would do is I would look at each of the individual countries that are fighting the war on drugs and see, if I was a businessman, which has got the best approach. And I'm part of something called the Global Drug Commission, and we did that, and we found that Portugal had an excellent example. 12 years ago, they said, we're not going to send one person to prison ever again for taking any kind of drugs. We're going to help people who have drugs problem. We're not going to criminalize them. And they had a big heroin problem. If somebody has a heroin problem in Portugal, they come and they see a psychiatrist and a social worker. They're given a clean needle. They're given their heroin fix until they're ready to be weaned off it, and then they're weaned off it. And Portugal's largely got on top of that problem. Now, if it's working in one country, why are all the other countries around the world ignoring it? And so, as a businessman, we've got involved with the Drug Commission to try to get out and shake up the various politicians around the world and say, look, it's politically acceptable now to make a change. And there are some countries like Ukraine or Russia that are dreadful the way they treat their citizens. The way they lock people up. There are other countries that are getting better, but anyway, I think
that's right. Now I'm glad I'm asking the questions and not answering. But yeah, but if you were to look, for example, another part of the work you've done around climate change, do you actually feel that the fact that business is prepared to take a broader than simply the immediate profit view has had an impact on the way that the debate has gone and that policy has been shaped?
I think it's important that business says to government, we believe the world has a problem. We are willing to sit down and work with you to resolve that problem. Obviously, if we can sit down and find a way to resolve the problem that's not going to, damage the growth of the world, that is ideal. Let's sit down with you and let's work out a way that can generate hundreds of thousands, millions of jobs all over the world, and turn the world economy from a dirty economy to a clean economy. And we set up something called the Carbon War Room with the aim of working with industry and working with government to achieve that purpose.
Right. I think what's actually important about the way that business can interact with how you achieve social good is that they can often bring a hard-headedness to the solutions, but they also understand that you need, for example, on climate change, you need to put this on a basis where people are likely to support it because you're actually, you're going to create jobs, you're using technology in an effective way. You're not simply saying you're going to have to give up a whole lot of living standards in order to have a cleaner world. Mohammed, if I come to you, you are very much in business but doing good. What led you to that concept, and where do you think that now goes for businesses and not just in the developed world, but the developing world too.
Yeah, well, you just asked a question to Richard, why does he do the things he does? He said, we are citizens. I will just take a little bit more. I'll say we are human beings. So as human beings, we have some feelings, some goals, some objectives in our life. This is what we want to reflect. Just because we are a businessman, it doesn't mean that we abandon everything of our human being. So we want to rediscover ourselves as a human being. Today, the world is divided into a business and philanthropy, and one side is a government. If you put together government and philanthropy, which helps to overcome the problems, compared to the business size itself, is still a very small thing. So business is a single-minded pursuit of personal benefit, personal profit maximizers. In a way, one critic looking at the business can say this almost looks like it's a group of robots chasing money. So that's where human identity, we kind of get lost. How do we bring the human identity back into the business? If we can define business, for example, business would not do harm to people, would not do harm to planet, would not exploit people, will not have no corruption, no deception, and so on. This is this kind of thing, a format that we can say this is what the business should be. Not asking for the moon. So what business does and what philanthropy does, what I was trying to do, bring something in the middle of the boat, call it social business. Business to address all these problems in a business way. I was trying to explain to somebody, I was saying, look, he was saying, oh, socialism wanted to do things like that too, but it failed. I said, look, what we are trying to do through social business, this is the objective of the socialism, but the methodology of capitalism. We do it exactly in a business way, like Richard and us working together in Haiti to reforest Haiti. Business will not go there to do that. But Haiti itself got deforested because people are chopping up the trees and making charcoals to cook. It doesn't make any sense. Only 2% of the forest left in Haiti. So we said, no, we cannot accept that. Why don't we go back and reforest Haiti as a business proposition? Not in a sense to make money, to build the forest in a sustainable way so that it covers its own cost, creates livelihood, creates income for people, and becomes a beautiful country. It's a livelihood issue, employment issue, environment issue, all mingled into one. So this is what the social business idea coming in, and I'm very happy hard-nosed business people are coming in joint ventures with us, like Richard started it, and then other Danone and BSF and other companies. Right. And also young people love that. They can create the world they want, not the world that somebody said this is how businesses run. You have to keep up your mind, focused on making money. You can't look at anything else. That's what the stock market will ask you, what kind of performance. We have to have a stock market of a different kind, which will tell you about the people and the planet and the profit what you have. That's what the whole idea about social business is all about.
I guess also, Mohammed, from the other perspective, you're more likely to have a profound social effect if the actions that you're taking also are done in ways of efficiency, accountability,
and discipline
that are actually more attributable to business norms.
Absolutely. But focused on solving problems. Today we have enormous capacity. That's what pains me, to see the list of things which remain unresolved. Why should there be unemployment? Tell me. Is there something wrong with any young person who is unemployed? He's a very capable person, but he's rejected by the system. Right. So how do we refix the whole system so that nobody in the world remains unemployed? Because there's nothing wrong in a human being to remain rejected by a system which we don't even challenge. Why you do that? Why do you punish human beings? Shouldn't it be other way? Human beings should be punishing you to keeping them out of the whole thing. All the creative power of these young people cannot be utilized. So that's what we have to address. And social business could be one way. This is what we are trying to do. Social business can address those issues. Because if you remain on the philanthropy, politicians will lead it to the welfare system. Okay, we'll give you charity. That's not a solution. or say, well, you'll give you some welfare benefit if you're unemployed. That's not a solution. Solution is to create that opportunity himself, give them the opportunity for the young person to solve his or her own problem by able to contribute his ability into the society.
Right.
I think, sorry, I was just going to say, I think, it is worth remembering what a business is. I mean, a business is an idea that somebody has to make a positive difference to somebody else's life. And that's effectively all a business is. It starts off by an entrepreneur coming up with an idea to make a positive difference to somebody else's life. And if they succeed in making a positive difference to somebody else's life, they have a successful business. If they fail, they don't have a successful business. And most people fail in that process. Once they've built up that successful business, they're employing a lot of people. And they're making a very positive difference, I think, to society in that way. And they've made a difference in the sector that they've gone into. And then once they've made a lot of money, or once they're making money, they can then utilize that money to try to either build more businesses, create more jobs, or try to get out there and sort out some of the problems of the world. And I simplify it in that way because people often get slightly embarrassed about being successful in business. But if you're successful in business, you're only successful because you've actually made a real difference to some other people's lives in the process.
Sure. I mean, that's obviously true. But the thing that interests me is also from the other perspective, which is what that success in business then brings to the philanthropy and why it is that we've seen this. Well, I guess it's a resurgence in a way. I mean, 19th century philanthropy was very, very active. But, Bill, why do you think it's that over this past decade or so, the people like yourself have been leading what is obviously a far richer, more textured, more recognized interaction between business and business entering the field of social good and taking the skills that they learnt there to do that? And doing things in a way that governments have not been able to.
Well, global capitalism is creating large fortunes faster today than ever. So the opportunity, if those people decide that it's not such a favor to their children to give them, hundreds of millions or billions of dollars, the opportunity to take those resources and get them back to society in some enlightened way, drawing on the dynamism, the understanding, the network, the credibility of these people who've been successful, it's fairly significant to take some areas that are risky that government go into and go after them. The foundations of the early 1900s were quite good. The Carnegie Foundation in terms of various library and learning things, Rockefeller Foundation in terms of medicine, education, and so we can still learn. They brought good people in, they measured their results, but the scale of philanthropy was very small compared to what it already is, and what it is small compared to what it can be. And we do have so much science now that we're not using on behalf of the poorest. We could have had a malaria vaccine by now if we'd started sooner. We could have a toilet that works in urban slums. And so it's just now that the idea of, okay, how do you activate the people with those skills and get them involved? It's just now that that's being worked on.
Right. Richard, just let me ask you, arising out of the whole Team B concept, do you think this argument about business being more than just profit in that narrow sense, but looking at the broader social objectives, is that an idea that you feel is winning, that the argument's being won? And what do you do about, there's obviously now in a lot of the emerging market countries too, significant individuals of real wealth. Are you finding that argument is gripping there in the same way or not?
I think it's an argument that is certainly winning. I think even in very big, I mean, Paul Pullman, who's one of the B team leaders, has shown how it can be done to an enormous company with Unilever, and how how he's making a difference right across the board of the company, and how he's making a difference with all his suppliers as well, and I think so if somebody like Paul Pullman can do it with Unilever, I think it's also become a great motivational force within Unilever. They can be proud of what the company's doing, and I think if you're proud of the company you're working for, you're going to work a little bit harder, and so I think it's also good business sense to behave in a proper ethical manner.
By the way, how for any of you, how important is it when you're recruiting your employees? How important is it that you have this dimension to what you do? Because I mean, my sense is for a lot of young people, it is a big plus in attracting them to an organization or a company if they think it's got some sense of moral purpose as well as.
Yeah, I think it's very important. I think if somebody who's working for your company goes to the pub and somebody says, which company do you work for, and they can give the name of the company really proudly and loudly in the pub, that's likely to attract other people to come and work for your company. If they're slightly shy about the company they work for because they feel it's not doing good in this world, why should people want to work for it?
Yeah, I don't know many people boasting they work for government, but anyway, yeah, it's perhaps to get there maybe. Look, government does do good work.
That's another subject. They should be, and you should be. Your MPs should be paid a lot more, and there should be a lot less of them. I mean, so.
Well, that's two vote-losing propositions. One with the public and one with the MPs. But anyway, that's why you're successful. Mohammed, do you want to add just something on that in relation to how you see this developing your business, because you're managing to attract really, really good people to come and work for you? Because obviously, if people are coming to work for you, they're coming. Obviously they want a successful career and so on and so forth. But they surely feel they're motivated, as it were.
One is you attract people who want to make an impact in the world. They should feel that as a human being I have done something, so they have to make a choice whether they go into profit maximizing companies, they will go to social business, or they will join a foundation, a philanthropic organization. That's a choice, that I dedicate my life in philanthropy and so on and so forth. There's no problem with that. So they will be attracting people with compensation packages which is consistent with the market return and so on and so forth. But if someone comes to philanthropy part or a social business side, okay, I get the money at the market value. At the same time, I do something which is very attractive for me, that this is where I want to dedicate myself. And within the philanthropy, there are many things which can come close to convert it into a social business. Very good, but they never pay attention to it. One of the way, this distinction between social business and philanthropy, in philanthropy, you do wonderful work. Problems are solved in a decent way and has been done for over many years. But in that, money goes out, it never comes back. So if you convert this into social business, the same money will go ahead and do it again and again. It's a sustainable entity. So if we can take pieces of it and make it into social business, then it's like Haiti, for example, the one I just gave example, many examples. This could be done as a charity project. Right. Beautiful charity project, Reforest Haiti. But we chose instead of a social business because it will have an income flow and cover its cost, continue. If it's successful within Haiti, we can go to other countries to do the same thing because every country has the same problem.
And we're looking for a few other business people to join us.
Join us, indeed, please.
Right, well, we'll come maybe that in a minute. Because time is tight, we're going to throw it open to some comments from the floor. Julian, I think we're going to start with Jimmy here, Jimmy Wales.
Yeah. Very good. Hi there. Jimmy Wales, founder of Wikipedia. We've got here two basic models represented. Both Bill and Richard made great fortunes in business and then have gone later in their careers increasingly into philanthropy. in a big way. Mухammad Юнус has this very innovative model of social business, where, as he says, the money doesn't come out as profit but gets plowed back into the business. But I'm also interested in a model that seems to be becoming popular with a lot of young people, which is the idea of a benefit corporation. A corporation which has, it's a for-profit company, but has baked into its charter, legally required, the shareholders can sue the company if they don't live up to certain social goals. And I was wondering if any of you have looked at these things, or if you had any words of wisdom or advice or thoughts about that type of model as another form of hybrid somewhere between just purely philanthropy and purely profit-making business.
Only quick point I'll make is we need to revisit the whole concept of profit-maximizing companies. So varieties of options should be in. So let's see how we can proceed with that in solving problems, so that we can express ourselves, our own objectives in life, to make it happen in a business way. So this would be a good addition to that portfolio.
I think it's an excellent idea, and the great thing about having it in the deeds of the company when it's set up is that when you go public, you can't have public shareholders objecting to it, so they know what they're buying into.
You got anything to offer on this, Bill?
I think it's pretty small scale at this point. It'll be interesting to see if it becomes significant. Serving two masters is often quite difficult, but we'll see.
Andrew, there's Andrew Forrest, who great Australian entrepreneur and philanthropist. Andrew.
Thank you. Look, I'm Andrew Forrest. I founded Walk Free. I've made a bob or two, but I'm looking here at,
it's a British understatement for an Australian.
Yeah, four spectacular contributors and 3 spectacular entrepreneurs. Just like to ask you, looking at your lives, what do you think has been more valuable to the communities in which you serve, the money you've given or the time you've given?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to come to you first on that.
With Bill, it's the money. Sorry.
No, that's all right. I'm with the time.
Like empty buckets.
I hope I haven't offended him.
Well, my work's building an institution that focuses on certain global health goals. And, we couldn't have written a check that would have changed global health. A check wouldn't have founded Gavi Global Fund, wouldn't have created the group that does TB, malaria. So it's an institution. It just happens to be going after childhood death as sort of a bottom line. And it's a lot, it's an institution that's improving year by year, but that's more of a time-driven thing than I'd say anything else.
Right. Being in the airline business, it has to be time, not money, and we have to be quite imaginative how we spend our time and trying to when we're trying to deal with philanthropic issues, just try to be entrepreneurial about the way we go about them.
Well, for me, I just started out the whole microcredit with $27. That was out of my pocket. That was the only money I gave. The rest of it is done in a business way. I offered myself as a guarantor. I didn't have to pay any money. I said, if anybody doesn't pay, I'll pay for it. Everybody paid, so I didn't have to pay anything. So, right. But I would say it's more of a creative power, innovative power, which I enjoy doing. Problems which is staggering, it's just standing like a wall. You suddenly find a way to make a crack, and then you address the whole issue and start kind of vanishing the whole wall itself. Right. So that's what I enjoy more, doing that. And there's enough creative power in the world, enough innovative power in the world. We are not directing it in that sense. We are always directing because money can buy those innovative power in the business world. I said, why can't we use this innovative power to solve problems in a business way? That's all I'm saying. And that's why young people love it.
I think, just to echo what Mohammed said, I and having studied this a bit myself, of course the money matters, but I think the best philanthropy is when the business person takes the skills of innovation, creativity, and entrepreneurial drive, the very things that made them successful, and applies them to philanthropy. If they simply just become a glorified standard NGO or government department, then frankly, the money, neither the money and all the rest of it works. Yes.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Randy Zuckerberg. It's really
Randy,
an
of course.
honor
Hi.
to be here.
How are you?
Thank you. Worked with several of you while at Facebook and now in my new venture. Now, many of you have chosen to create a foundation or an organization in your personal name. On one hand, philanthropy has always benefited from star power. I think it's wonderful to leverage the use of celebrity and people's relationship with your product and your personality. But on the other hand, it can make it very difficult to scale. So how do you balance capitalizing on that star power to further a cause while creating something that will have a legacy long after your lifetime?
Well, I created something called Yunus Center just to give me a base out of which I can work. And I tried to create it as a social business rather than as a philanthropic outfit. But the idea is behind it, it should be self-sustaining itself. So this is how we try to organize it.
I think it's a good question. I mean, we've got a foundation called Virgin Unite. We've actually been debating whether we should change the name just to Unite, which I think can then bring more people into it.
Non-virgins.
I'm not sure there'd be any business. We actually set up something called Virgin Brides once, and it didn't last. But any subsidiary organisation, which we set up quite a lot of, we don't have the Virgin brands, so the Elders or the Carbon War Room or the B Team or the Oceanic Elders. So they very much have their own identities. Bill?
Yeah, in our case, the goal is to solve some identifiable problems, and we feel that, certainly within 20 years of the time that neither Melinda or I are around, these will be solved problems, and that's what the institution, the science, the way of tracking things, it's all about solving those problems. So our foundation will disappear. It'll spend all its money, it'll go away, and rich people in the future, they will know more about what's wrong with the world, and they'll have their energy and not to last any longer than the problems it was designed to solve exist in the world.
Yeah, I would have thought basically that if you're, especially to take Bill as an example, I mean, I think to have that name is of huge assistance when you're starting, and I wouldn't be overly modest about it if I was him or any of the people on the panel. I mean, I think the fact is, if it helps, it helps. And but the key thing will be, what do you build, and the ideas behind it, and the rigor with which you approach the philanthropic cause. I believe. Ely, I'm looking at you. Have we got?
Hi, my name is
Max.
Max Lufchin. I'm an entrepreneur. I have a question for the business people on the panel. So I spend most of my time starting companies and working on startups. One of the trade-offs or choices you have in a startup is you're not really in profit maximization mode, you're in a survival maximization mode most of the time. You're trying not to die. And while there's definitely a talent, employee-driven desire to do good and to contribute more than ever that in my career that I've seen, what other advice can you give? What have you seen work in a larger business context where you can bake the need to do good into a company that's just barely struggling to make its first profit?
Yeah, I think it's when you're small, you should focus on your survival. Take like the early days of PayPal. You did the right thing. Now, can those payment platforms eventually be used to get financial services out to very poor people, which traditional financial approaches don't? Now that the base has been built, the technology is there. I hope the current owners will direct some of their energies in those directions. In the early stage, there are sometimes technologies in biotech companies. We go in and do work to get what we call global rights, where they don't charge for the use in poor countries. So we're able to help them at the early stage if it's a technology that we can identify that helps with vaccines or drugs in some ways. But it's a fairly small percentage that are easily identifiable as matching the needs of the poorest.
I would agree. I think survival is key. But equally, I think just try to run your company in a way that your employees can feel very proud of the company they work for because of the way they're treated. I think making sure that you give them flexibility in working. If they want to work from home, let them work from home. Even if you are a small company, I mean, just try to try to really make sure that you've got a company that people are really proud to work for. And then once you start making some money, then you can do more.
Sure. Just a quick addition. The survival, of course, is the first thing. But this is a good time also to define your social goals. As you grow big, what would you do? Because you're not doing anything right now. But this will help your employees and the people who will be interacting with you, whatever social goal you want to achieve.
Great. Okay, we have one more comment, then we'll take it out to the floor.
So this is Tim Berners-Lee. I'd like to go back to pick up on Jimmy's question, I suppose, and go back to the serving two masters. When you put together a non-profit, then really, once you've launched the thing, it's designed to just achieve the objective with which it's chartered, and everybody involved, all the board are sort of sworn to just make sure that that's what it does. When you put together a for-profit, then similarly, particularly a public one, it's designed to make money. So isn't anybody who's trying to do, certainly aren't you, when you're trying to do something which is a social business, don't you find that in a lot of countries you are trying to serve two masters, and you need to have some definition of a third type of corporation, where you find that really the systems which have been set up in the way that the types of companies you can put together, for-profit and non-profit, are you have to pick between one or the other. In either case, you're pushing a water uphill really because it wasn't designed for you. Is there a case for designing a new type of system?
Do you have an idea in mind? Maybe. Tim, do you have an idea in mind?
Well, I wonder about whether designing something specific.
Right, but that's one way.
Creating a new type of sort of for-profit, non-profit, where specifically you're allowed to make a certain amount of profit, for example, particularly when you're young, but you declare that.
Is that what Jimmy Wales was talking about or not? I don't know.
I think you may have been getting at that sort of thing.
Yeah, right. Let me see if I could answer it my way. So far as social business is concerned, we are not looking for any new legal form. We just register ourselves like a profit-making company, just like any others. Only the owners of the company declares to themselves, I'm not going to take any profit out of it. This is a personal decision, not legally to be declared to be somebody else. You can put it in your company declaration, this is what we'll do. We can get back our investment money, but no dividend beyond that. And many people say, don't you want some special advantage from the government, some subsidy or some favor from you? We always say, no, we don't want anything from the government, because then the whole idea of social business will be destroyed. Because if you give any special privilege to social businesses, then there is a danger in many countries particularly. The fake social business will be developed, will be created, and that will destroy the whole idea of social business. So we don't want any special favor. We don't want any new law. Existing law is good enough for us.
Right. There are many business structures. In the insurance industry, mutuals, two of the biggest five are mutuals, no shareholders. Co-ops, gigantic in some different areas. So we have a lot of business structures. You always have to say, why do you have customers who don't have money? If you're serving their need, the people who need a malaria vaccine, they have no money. So typical for-profit model isn't going to do that. Creating new seeds for poor farmers. The for-profit model is not going to do that. If you're creating something for people who have money, then you should say to yourself, what is the advantage of not being a typical company? What trap or problem are you not going to fall into that makes it superior? And only then can you say, okay, what is this new charter? What is it about? What problem have you addressed?
I'll just sort of end by saying I think that those of us who are lucky enough to have built companies in the old conventional way, I think extreme responsibility comes with the wealth. we're fortunate. We're just fortunate to be in a position. I don't think any of us necessarily set out to make a lot of wealth. We set out to create something because people liked it. Wealth came, and therefore I think that it is extremely important that we use that wealth to sort out the problems of the world. And I think if every company and every entrepreneur, every owner can think like that, we will get on top of almost all the problems in this world. Most of them are solvable if we can use our wealth and if we can use our entrepreneurial talents to try to adopt these problems and get on top of them.
Okay, time is extremely tight. I just want to bring in one final comment, and then we'll do a quick summing up. I'd like to bring in Patrice Motsepe, who's from South Africa, who's a highly successful businessman, but also a great philanthropist as well. Patrice.
Thank you very much, Tony. I think we are going through a huge learning process, a huge learning experience. We are hugely privileged as a family that we are both involved in philanthropy, we are both involved in social entrepreneurship, as well as the hard-nosed business imperatives where shareholders all over the world have, particularly the ones that manage other people's monies, are looking at world-class performance. I get young Africans from all over the continent asking me, what should I do? Should I focus on being a hard-nosed businessman and do an MBA and get myself ready in that regard? I meet some young entrepreneurs who've been very successful and have taken on entrepreneurship, as well as what Professor Yunus have said, the fundamental role of social entrepreneurship, because in some areas, the profit maximization objective is questionable. It's questioned both from an upbringing, from a ethical, but also from a cultural perspective. And what I just want to say in conclusion is that I think what all the three gentlemen are doing is hugely inspirational, and we all benefit. And we should allow both the hard-nosed business people, because they make huge contributions, as well as the social entrepreneurs like Professor Yunus and the philanthropy, and all of them, the prime objective is to make the world a better place.
Okay, thank you very much, Patrice. Just a final summing up from each of you, if you would. And really, I think if you had one thing to say about the future of this to this audience, what would it be? I mean, what is the biggest imperative now in this area of work?
I'd say the owners of businesses that have large wealth, they individually should engage in philanthropy, and the businesses themselves, particularly the skill sets they have, think about how they can take not half, but maybe 4 or 5%, and particularly direct it towards those who can't afford their product today, where their skill sets can help make a difference. And I'm seeing a trend in that direction. So I'd say for those two things, I'm quite optimistic. This idea that there's a third structure, hey, let's try it out. I don't have a sense that people have identified what the vacuum that's being filled there is, but let's give it a try.
Richard?
No, I just would let's see. I was trying to think of one thing. I think if business could sit down together with government and discuss how we're going to get on top of a world heating up and the terrible damage that's going to do in 100 years' time, that would be something to be achieved. And I think government and business together can come up with a business solution to the problem.
Okay, Mohammed.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, we're going to be out of time. We're going to be
yeah.
after
Quickly. I feel that we have in this room enough power, enough capacity, enough innovative capacity, and enough resources. If the people who are present here, in addition to what they are doing now, look at using their capacity to solve problems, using their innovative capacity, using their connectivity and everything else, the whole world could be changed in a massive way. If you put all the people who are attending Davos Imagine what a power that is. Only think how to use my creative power in solving a tiny piece of the problem that we have, just to take a tiny piece. If you can solve a tiny piece of that problem, rest of the problem can be solved easily. So that's what I see the possibility of future.
And, yes, sir?
Thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister. My name is Peter Poroshenko, and I was one of the most successful businessmen of Ukraine, and they say that I'm one of the most successful politicians in Ukraine. And I want to say you very great thanks for the solidarity you make at the very beginning in Ukraine. But I think that now Ukrainian question is very important because we have now quite dramatic changes in legislation, which all the sponsored, which is for money coming from abroad, is now international agent, which is under SBU investigation, which completely stop any philanthropic activity in Ukraine, which is very dangerous. I think that we have but we will not stop because we do not recognize these laws. And I think that lots of you is already demonstrating the very important solidarity. Can you imagine that Bill Gates, country manager, spent 3 weeks, take rest on the company, spend 3 weeks feeding the people on the Maidan? Can you imagine that Jimmy Wales' Wikipedia stop the services after 4 o'clock for the Ukrainian just in solidarity of Ukrainian people? We are several hundred people of here. My question is, let's find out a way how every of us can demonstrate the solidarity with Ukraine and with Ukrainian people to keep democracy and civil society. This is very important.
Thank you very much indeed. I think that's a fantastic way to end our forum. I'd like to thank our stellar panelists who have been as brilliant as I expected they would be. And thank you all very much for coming. And most of all, Victor, thank you again for enabling it. Thank you very much.